I landed in Vienna under a pewter sky, the kind that presses low on the city and turns the Danube a shade of metal. The taxi from Schwechat traced the Ringstrasse, past palaces turned museums, statues catching sleet on bronze shoulders. I had come because of Leah. 3 nights earlier, my oldest friend sent a 7-word message. If I go quiet, come to Vienna. Then nothing. Not calls, not read receipts. Just a last pin drop in Leopoldstadt, near the Carmeliter Markt. Leah doesn't spook easily. She studies corruption networks for an NGO in Berlin and keeps files like other people keep houseplants. When she vanishes, it means she either wants to or can't help it. I told myself the former. By the time the driver cut toward the Praterston, I believed neither. Her sublet was a 5th-floor walk-up with a jittery elevator and a view of the Riesenrad's iron hoops. The lock showed scratch marks, not fresh but impatient. Inside, heat hissed, lights off, kettle cold. On the table sat a blue folder, edges worn, clipped with a museum ticket to the Kunsthistorisches dated 2 days ago, and a receipt from Café Spurl, €8, Einspanner, croissant, time-stamped an hour after the museum closed. I pocketed both and opened the folder. Photocopies of wire transfers. Names. A shipping firm in Trieste, a gallery in Zurich, a trust in Liechtenstein. The transfers were labelled with innocuous codes, but Lee's red pen carved through them. Borca Bucharest? Kleist equals proxy. A post-it note stuck to the back page held an address. Taberstrasse 22, 2000 hours. Don't come alone. It was 1830. I showered fast and changed into the warmest clothes I'd brought. Thermal shirt, black coat, the cap she once called Austrian burglar chic. As I left, a neighbour opened her door. She was in slippers, grey hair braided and pinned, the apartment behind her smelling of starch and soup. "You are Lee's friend?" she asked in English, touched by Viennese vowels. "Yes. Marco. She said you might come. She gave me this in case." The woman handed me a folded page from a pocket novel. Inside, written tightly in blue ink, "If I don't open the door, do not knock. Go to the café across the street and wait near the window. At 1945, you'll see a man with a scar like a comma near his left eye. Follow him. He's not with them." "Who's them?" I asked, but she had already retreated, crossing herself in a way that felt theatrical until I remembered the scratch marks on the lock. I crossed to the café at 1920, ordered a mélange I barely tasted, and sat with the Kunsthistorisches ticket and Spurl receipt under my napkin like talismans. The sleet turned to needling snow. Outside, cyclists hunched against it, and trams clicked past like patient metronomes. At 1947, a man approached the crosswalk. Beige wool coat, neat scarf, left cheek marked by a pale, curved scar. He paused, glanced at the bakery's window as if checking his reflection, and headed toward the U-Bahn entrance. I put coins on the saucer and followed. Down the stairs, the tiled tunnel smelled of damp stone and cigarettes. He boarded the U2 to Schottenring without looking back. I stepped in as the doors closed. He stood by the map, hands in his coat pockets, watching the reflection in the glass more than the carriage. When the train lurched, he turned slightly toward me and said, in a voice only I could hear, "If you're here for Leah, you're already late." And then the lights briefly flickered. We got off at Schottenring and threaded through the underpass toward the Danube Canal. Graffiti ran along the walls, slogans and block letters. He didn't look back until we were halfway up the stairs. "Keep 3 steps behind," he said without moving his lips. "If I nod, stop. If I touch my ear, turn around and leave." "Who are you?" I asked. "A stupid man who owed Leah a favor. Call me Paul." Wind funneled between buildings, carrying canal reek. Paul cut across to Taberstrasse and stopped outside number 22, a mid-century building with a law firm on the first floor. He nodded once. I stopped. He stepped inside like he belonged and disappeared past the lobby. I waited, palms damp. After a minute, the door unlatched. Paul beckoned. Inside, he handed me a key card. 4th floor. Back office. 15 minutes only. Do not touch the printer. They monitor usage by serial number. Also, when you leave, you never met me. What is this place? A consulting front. They grease paperwork for shipments moving between museums and private collections. Leah thought the firm laundered provenances, swapping descriptions so a painting under embargo looks like a harmless post-war print. The transfers pay for silence. And they? People who recycle history for profit. People who dislike being named. He checked his watch. Go. The 4th floor corridor smelled like toner and lemon cleaner. The glass door to client services buzzed open with the card. In the back office, I found customs declarations. Lee's handwriting ghosted the margins of a few forms. Fake consignor address. Compare to KHM inventory. I took pictures. The computer was locked, a webcam staring. I didn't touch the mouse. In the bottom drawer lay an envelope labeled 44B. Inside were passport photocopies, the same face under aliases. One, with a comma scar faintly visible near the left eye, wore the name Paul Steiner. Footsteps approached. A voice said, "Nurkers, casual bored." I killed my phone's light, slid the file back, and closed the drawer with breath measured to my pulse. The footsteps passed. When I met Paul at the stairwell, his expression said he knew which drawer I'd seen. He didn't flinch. "Did you get what you need?" "Enough to ask questions." "Not here." Back on the street, snow sifted and dissolved on the canal's dark water. Paul walked quickly, peeling toward the Karmeliterkirche. Leah told me they were moving something out of the Kunsthistorisches using a loan agreement as cover, he said. A painting off record. It should be in a truck tonight, after closing, headed to a warehouse near Kagran. She called when she realized someone inside knew she was tracking it. And now she's gone. "No," he said, checking a shadow behind us reflected in a shop window. "She's cautious. She will have run. The question is who else got her message." We turned onto a narrow street where snow stayed powder in the curve of the cobbles. A car idled at the far end, exhaust ribboning white. Paul touched his ear. I pivoted casually, like a tourist who'd taken a wrong turn. "Don't run," he murmured. "If they're watching, they expect panic." He stopped at a bakery's shuttered door and examined the hours as if choosing pastries. At 21:10, the tram 8 stops away meets a bus toward Kagran. If we're on it, we might see the truck. If not, we go home. And Leah. Leah will either be at the warehouse, he said, or on her way to the border. He didn't say which outcome worried him more. Snow ticked softly. We made the tram with a minute to spare, breath white, tickets crumpled. The carriage rocked past the Prater's skeletal rides and out toward districts where the city sheds ornament for function. Paul took the rear seat, eyes on the reflection in the window. I watched the stops and counted. At Erzherzog Karlstrasse we switched to a bus with damp seats. Outside, the snow thinned. The city flattened into low warehouses and freight spurs. Paul pressed the bell. We got off near a tire service place, its neon flickering. 2 blocks, he said. Then right. The street met a chain-link fence. Beyond it sat a complex of tin-sided buildings, one with a discreet sign, Kager Logistic. A guard booth glowed by the gate. Paul didn't slow. He veered left along the fence until it met a stand of trees and a drainage ditch shallow with ice. "There," he said, crouching. Across the ditch, a side door opened. Two workers emerged with cigarettes. Behind them, a forklift beeped and a truck's tailgate whined. I saw museum crates, plywood, black stencils, exhibit materials. "How do you know this place?" I asked. "Leah and I met here once," Paul said. "We argued about going to the police. And she wanted proof." He glanced at me. She was probably right. We waited until the smokers stamped their cigarettes into the snow. The door shut. Paul slipped down the ditch, boots careful on ice, and slid under a sagging fence. I followed, coat catching on wire. We crouched by stacked pallets. The truck backed to a bay. A man with a clipboard checked numbers against a page. "Stay low," Paul whispered. "If anything happens, run for the trees and don't stop. There's a tram line beyond them. And you." "I keep my promises until I can't." He moved toward the bay. I counted to 60. The air smelled of diesel and wet cardboard and a sweet chemical. When my knees shook, the clipboard man shouted for someone named Lucky. A moment later, the driver hopped from the cab to smoke. He left the door ajar. I slid into the cab. The cabin was warm, coffee-smelling. A delivery manifest lay clipped to the visor. Destination: a private depot near a Danube marina. Sender: Kunsthistorisches Loans. The phone number was wrong by 1 digit. A note in German: door code change, 2741. My phone buzzed and stopped. No bars. I photographed the manifest and eased out, leaving the door as it had. When I reached the pallets again, Paul was gone. Panic rose. I pressed it down. I circled the bay's dark edge and found a narrow corridor between crates leading to a service door. Inside, the warehouse was warmer, sound muffled by cardboard. Voices drifted, bored cadence. On a mezzanine above the floor, a light burned in a small office. A figure moved between shelves. I climbed an iron stair so slowly my thighs burned. At the top, the office door stood open a crack. I looked through. Leah sat at a desk, hair tied back with a rubber band, a yellowed bruise along her jaw. Her hands moved quickly over a keyboard. She didn't look surprised when she whispered, "You're late," and motioned me inside. "You look awful," I said. "You look easy to follow," she said. "Close the door. Quietly. Then listen carefully. We have 20 minutes to decide whether to steal a painting or steal a name." Leah locked the office door and pulled the blinds. "They're moving a small Renaissance panel off the books," she said. "But the painting is bait. The real asset is the signature authorizing the loan. Leak the work and they survive. Leak the person and the network eats itself." "Whose signature?" She showed me a scan. The same name sat on multiple permits routed through shells. "A ministry stamp. An advisor to the culture minister," she said. "His cousin runs the Taberstrasse firm. The museum registrar is involved but small. The cousin moves paper. So we steal his name. We copy the authorization and the access log," she said. "Your photo of the manifest gives us the route. Door code is 2741. A board creaked. Leah killed the screen. We listened. Nothing. "Where's Paul?" I asked. "Downstairs, trying not to be noticed," she said, sliding a lipstick tube USB into the computer. She copied the files, verified it, and pressed the drive into my glove. You carry it. If I'm grabbed, they search harder. On the floor, the truck coughed awake. Paul stood with the clipboard man, posture bored. His eyes brushed ours once. He touched his ear. At the side door, the keypad blinked red at 27:41. Again red. They changed it, Leah whispered. The bay door rattled up. Cold washed in. The driver climbed into the cab. Paul dropped the clipboard. Papers fluttered. A guard turned to answer a phone. Plan B, Leah said, cracking a compact flare. Smoke burped. A detector keened. Sprinklers stayed dry, but noise multiplied. Attention scattered. We slipped down the corridor, out through a service door, into the ditch, under a sagging fence, and ran. At the tram stop, Leah laughed once, harsh with relief. You still run on your heels, she said. You still start fires. We boarded. At the next stop Paul entered and sat 2 rows ahead. Do we trust him? I asked. We trust his fear, she said. It points the way. Near Praterston, sirens arrowed toward Cagran. Leah gave me her phone. If I'm grabbed, call this number and say, the registrar wants to meet. Then hang up. Who answers? People who hate the cousin more than me. Snow began again. In the stairwell, Leah stopped. I sent that message because you were clean, she said. They watch my network. I needed a courier no one suspects. We're couriers now. We can pass through lobbies unnoticed. We didn't reach her door. A man stepped from shadow and showed a badge. Police. Paul appeared behind him, scar catching the light. She asked the officer, Do you have the truck? Stopped at the gate, he said. He nodded at Paul. Makeup, Paul said. I needed you to be sure it was me. Not only ours, the officer replied. On the landing above, a woman in a dark coat watched. Leah looked up. Registrar. Whistleblower, the woman said. I couldn't move the files without losing the case. You could. Leah handed the drive over. Then take it, and take his name with it. We walked into the snow to give statements. Whether the painting surfaced mattered less. The signature was in motion toward offices. Vienna settled into winter calm, trams sighing, windows glowing. As breath returned, the city felt legible again, or maybe that was a story we needed. Morning would come grey on the Danube. If names held, people would fall. If they didn't, we could still live with what we'd done. Sometimes that is the only victory cities allow.